You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
What's up, Coaches Nation? This is another episode of the Coach's Journey podcast. I am Dr. Sherry Llewellyn. I am one of the co-hosts, and we are here both with Faisal Insan and Daniel Fernandez with the Coaching Mastery community. We are professional coaches, and we are here to have a conversation to change your life as a coach. And today, we have a really interesting conversation. If somebody were to ask you, hey, as a coach in your coaching business, are you commitment phobic? You know, I don't know that I ever would have raised my hand, just asked that question. But actually, we meet a lot of coaches, and we've been those coaches that may actually be or have been commitment phobic. So we're going to unpack that for you on why this matters to you so much and why it's holding you back in your business from creating the business that you intended to create when you became a coach.
And if right now you're thinking, I'm not commitment phobic as a coach, well, it's exactly the person who might need to listen today. Because there's lots of different kinds of commitment phobias. And like we all have at different places in our lives at different times in our lives. And so this is going to be such an interesting conversation. I'm super curious to hear from both of you actually on your journeys around commitment too. So this is going to be a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots of stories around this to share. I know that I was commitment phobic. Now that I think about it, I never recognized it, but now I know.
I would have never called myself that, but now that I'm looking back, I'm like, yep, that was definitely that.
Absolutely. So what are we talking about when we say commitment phobic as it relates to your coaching business? Let's kind of create a shared definition so we're all on the same page about what we're actually talking about.
It's kind of hard to define in a way because there's different like contexts that it can occur in. But
I can do it.
Go ahead.
So I'll put it this way. A coach who's saying that I want to build a coaching profession or business, but their actions are not corroborating that claim.
Which is different from someone who says that and is doing all the wrong things. That's not the same as what we're talking about.
That's
like your actions demonstrate that you're not as committed as you say you are.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the actions, what they might be that are like, you could be taking a lot of actions that might not be the right actions. That's fine. That's a learning journey. But there are a lot of coaches who say that, well, I'm a coach, but they've been certified for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or they claim that they've been a coach for that long, but they have no actions to back it up.
Can I do an example from my personal life that is sort of related, but it'll give us a little metaphor here? Like when it comes to like my love life, back in the days before I was married, I know this is weird, but it's true. Like I was commitment phobic, but I had no idea because like I wrote down like I want a relationship, I want to get married, I want to have kids one day. I wrote that in my vision. But then when the rubber met the road and I was meeting women that I wanted to go on dates with, as things got a little bit more serious, I got like a little bit scared, and I didn't realize that was what was happening. I would resist. I would push back. I would not want to go down that road. And a lot of the people I dated eventually were affected by that. And like I basically like could not take it to the next level of commitment in my relationships because I was afraid of what that would mean for me. I think subconsciously deep down, I was like, well, if I did that, if I really committed to this, and I didn't hold back, then I would lose freedom, or then I would lose this. And I was focused on like what I was losing, though I knew what I really wanted was like that amazing relationship where I could build a family one day. And like this happened over and over and over again with different people. And like I had to face it eventually. And it was even with my wife today, I struggle with commitment the whole first like part of the relationship because I resisted saying I love her. When I actually did, I resisted like making decisions that would move the relationship forward when I actually wanted it to move forward deeper inside. If I was at that level of like truth of what I really ultimately wanted, I was letting things that I wanted in the moment or in short term or in other areas of my life really dictate what I want in this area of life, which was super important to me, but I just wasn't giving it the importance that it really deserves. If I was really honest, like probably the most important thing in my life was building that family long term. And I was letting other things that were not important, like, make me resist that. Like, oh, well, I don't want to move to Chicago to be with her because then I have to give up this thing and that thing and this thing.
But were you aware? Was this all subconscious, or were you aware of it?
A lot of it was subconscious. It kind of came to the forefront through conversations with, like, I had a therapist at the time, and I had coaches that I was talking to, and it was complicated. It was super complicated, and it was so subtle. It was so subtle until making I had to come to make the decision to commit and make a choice. And the thing that changed for me was realizing this is like one of the most important things in my life. Why am I not making decisions that reflect my most important priorities? And like that was so hard. And I think there's truth to that in my coaching career too. But like that was like a super obvious example of commitment phobia that I didn't know I had.
Yeah. So when I look at my own life and I'm thinking about Brendan Burchard, so all three of us just happen to be high performance coaches. And Brendan has a framework around fears, that there's kind of three categories of fear that get in the way of us moving forward. And so I think using that as a framework in which to think about this could be super helpful. And one of the things that I've noticed in my own life around my coaching, I would not at all call myself as phobic around around commitment. However, have I had fear around fully committing to coaching because of perceived opportunity loss that I would have in other areas of my life and other career opportunities or other money generating opportunities? Absolutely, yes. And so that's one of the things that I have struggled with, and I see in some other coaches, is this challenge of, but if I fully invest all my time and energy into a coaching practice, what if, and then what if, and then what if, like all these what ifs, but what if it doesn't? And it's, of course, it's always the what ifs that are not pleasing. Like, what if I don't make what I think I could, or I'm not as good as I think I am, or all of these things. And then I think, but if I had done this and stuck on this path or put more time and energy into this thing, then I could have done more or better. So it's this challenge between perceived opportunity cost. That's, for me, that's I would say one of the biggest fears that has gone into this idea of delaying my kind of being all in on coaching.
Sherry, can I ask about that? Do you think that phenomenon, like I have experienced that too, but do you think that phenomenon affects how you show up in your coaching business?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been times where opportunities have presented themselves and I am not, like, I don't jump on it as quickly and with as much energy and enthusiasm as if I wasn't distracted. So it's kind of like the meme that went around a whole lot of, like, there's this guy and this girl, they're walking on a sidewalk. Yes, and there's this hot girl that walked by and you see her, and then you see the guy turning around looking, and then you see his girlfriend, presumably she's like giving him a dirty look. That's what it kind of feels like. Like,
the girlfriend is the coaching career and the other girl is like the other distraction thing.
Yes. It's like, I'm not fully committed to what's next to me. I'm not like all in on this, and just super focused on this. I'm kind of, my peripheral vision is searching and kind of and so that's how I view, is like my energy and my time and my abilities, my skill set, my network, all of these things are so scattered. And the more scattered they are, the less effective I possibly can be in what I'm doing with my coaching business.
Just some credit to men with their committed relationship. When there's somebody walking by you, if I'm committed, I've learned to just look straight ahead, but it will catch my eye. I'll be like, and the first thing my wife is very aware of these things and she tends to get jealous. So she'll be standing with me. Before I even notice anything, she's like, did you notice that person? And this is what I do. Who? Where? It's like, why are you looking? I'm like,
but she's not watching this podcast right now. You'll be totally busted.
Oh, I do the same thing. So I'm working on my jealousy. I'm not near where I used to be, but at my height, like, we'd be in a movie theater. My husband would be sitting next to me and there would be like some sort of, even just you know, a mildly intimate scene of like kissing her, and I'd be like side looking at him like,
Yeah.
totally.
I'm not allowed to look at those things, just so you know.
But I just want to say, like, this is because there's like a period of life you go through where you need to pay attention to those things, right? If you're going through adolescence or adulthood and you're trying to build a relationship, or you know that you have that desire, you're going to be noticing people of the gender that you're attracted to, right? It's normal. It's not just men, it's everybody. And what you're doing, you're paying attention to what you need in your life. But a lot of times those conditioning, like so my struggle with this has been, and this is totally real. It's relevant. I promise we'll get there. But like, I've conditioned myself to look for the thing I want. So when I was dating a lot, I was looking for women that I found attractive and interesting and fascinating and et cetera, et cetera. But then once you're in a committed relationship, those neural pathways have been formed because I spent a lot of time investing into that area of my life, even though I was commitment phobic. And now it's harder for me to like form new pathways. And I've been doing that with my current relationship I've been in for 10 years, we just celebrated. And I've been reconditioning a new pathway. That doesn't unpickle the old pathways, you know, like they're still there and they're still firing. And that's okay to acknowledge that you have those parts of your brain that are doing that thing. But my intention and my, you know, best self is one who focuses my attention on the new pathways, not the old pathways. And it's okay to say like, oh, that thing, I noticed that person, but that's not what I'm interested in right now. My intention is over here. And that's totally fine. I think we can be understanding of humans for having these neural pathways formed because they were useful at one point. Just like with your clients, right? They have old pathways, you're helping them. Just like us as coaches, we have old pathways. And when we move to the coaching industry, there's all these new pathways that need to form, and the old pathways are holding us back from commitment. Because like it's like almost the same thing. It's like you're dating your business. You should get married to your business, right? So
there you go. Don't date your business. Marry them. Yes.
Which is different from niches. You can totally date niches until you figure out what your niche is.
We just lost a bunch of coaches who are commitment phobic around marriage. It's like, what? Now you're connecting that to marriage for me?
Well, there's a good analogy, right?
There is a good analogy.
So for me, I'd say it showed up a little bit differently. It was very interesting. I still remember, and I've shared this before. The moment it was actually a couple of years into my business when somebody close to me, a close person in my family, who basically told me, was like, why are you in this business? You're not making money. You're not getting anything, and in a very negative way. And it was actually very hurtful to me. And I remember sitting down there and thinking about this. And I looked at the past couple of years, like, I'm not making that much money. He's right about that. Why am I in this? What am I doing here? And as I thought about this, as I felt it, the statement that came to mind, that really defined the success for my business. And I actually shared it that way. I was like, you know what? This is really important to me, not just for right now, but I don't care if it takes me 3 years or 10 years to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. And to me, it signaled commitment for me. As soon as I realized it, and from a long-term perspective, I was like, okay, am I actually dedicating my time and effort for it to be that kind of success in 10 years? And thankfully, that kind of woke me up in a sense, and I started to do things differently. And I started to look at my past 2 years, and I was looking at it, and it was like, it looks like I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I was trying different things, but one, a lot of what I was doing, I didn't know if that was going to pay off. So I needed to get help in there. Second, there were certain areas I knew that I wasn't going towards, I was scared of. And I became aware of it as I started thinking, I'm like, I need to deal with that if I'm going to make this a long-term thing. It cannot be the way I've been approaching it. So that click needed to happen for me to understand that. And here's the thing that shifted. My actions were very different before and after that realization. Very, very different.
Something I love that you just said, Faisal, it's like a question all of the coaches watching should be asking, which is like, how long am I in this game for?
Yes.
Like, is this a 6-month thing? Is this a year thing? Or is this a decade thing? Right? And that changes how you show up, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely does. I very much think about it. The more that I'm in this, I think about it like my real estate investing. That if I go, there are some investments that are intended to be short term, and that's fine. But you go into those understanding it's a short turnaround. Your ROI is it's got to be quick, and you're going to get your capital back, and you're going to be able to, you know, whatever. But most of my investing is long term, and it has served us well so far, and it's going to continue to serve us well. So why would I think about being a coach and building that business as any different? I mean, I think there are some differences, which we don't need to deep dive into, but I think the overall mindset of if this is something worth doing, then it's going to take a while to build traction. It's going to take a while, and it's worth my energy. If I'm going to be in this long term, this is a long-term investment of my time and energy and my money, then I need to use that lens on how I evaluate what I'm doing. And that, for me, the more that I realize that frame and focus on that, it makes all the difference. And I see Daniel laughing.
Oh my gosh, Sherry. Like, I'm starting to think about like long-term commitment. If you talk about like relationships, I'm thinking of like real estate investments that I've done. And like when I bought my first house, I bought it thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna buy this house and it's gonna make me money. I'm just gonna like make it work. But like 10 years later, like the disasters that I created in my life because I wasn't truly committed to managing an investment sophisticated. Like I was just like, oh, this will happen in the background and I won't have to spend any time on it. It'll be so easy. Oh my gosh, with tenants and repairs and like getting like they took me to the housing board for something that my property manager did and getting money stolen from me. You know, like there's so many like things that happened that I just wasn't committed enough to like prevent those things because I not only didn't know what to do, but I didn't know how much time I should be putting into this. And I thought it was going to be super easy. Just like when I got in relationships, it was like after about a year and a half, things I never like a year to year and a half. That was the time frame that like I started like I would always have a breakup at some point. It would like not be working for me or for them. And like even if it's for me, it's like it's the reason is I wasn't ready to take it to the next level of what is necessary to get what I wanted out of the thing that I quote committed to, right? It's like that real estate investment that I made, that house, man. I was so happy. I was so happy the day I bought it, but not happy because I was committed. I was so happy the day I sold it because I knew what it meant to be committed to an investment now.
It's like, well,
And
and
like,
it's a
so it's the same thing.
it's a mismatch between your expectations on what the vehicle is intended to do and what you need to do to it. And I think that is absolutely applicable in our coaching business. What are our expectations? I came into as a coach, I had an expectation that, okay, this is going to be pretty easy. Like I'm a psychologist. I've been working with clients for over a decade already before I even went into the coaching world. And I grew a business. I did all these things. So I'm like, of course this will be easy. And then it wasn't.
How hard can it be?
Because there are some very significant differences, but largely around my need to, or the necessity of me going out there and creating clients rather than them just coming to me. Like that just didn't happen. And so for all of these many, many reasons, this wasn't a passive investment like I thought. Like in the language of real estate, this is a very inactive investment of my time and energy and all of that. And so when I realized that, and as I'm realizing how much energy and time to create the thing I want, that's necessary in order for that to happen. What are your thoughts, Francois?
Yeah, I want to also, and I love everything that's being shared. I want to make it specific to action. So I have a client right now, speaking of real estate investors, he's actually considering going into the coaching world. He's been asking me a lot of questions around what I would do. And he's actually already thinking about it. Like, I want to join your coaching community and this and that. I'm like, I actually got him to pause it. And I got him to think about his long-term, that this is not going to be a 1 day, 2 day thing or a few months thing. I laid out exactly what he needed to do. And I've had a couple of sessions with him to help him kind of come up with a plan if he wants to do it. And I still haven't scared him off because I can tell he's committed. So I'm also testing him in the process. Are you really in? I'm putting everything in front of him to see is it like whether or not is he scared of the work? Is he scared of this? Is like he's not. Like he's open in terms of investing his money. I'm like, you're gonna have to invest anywhere from 16 to 20K just to get yourself started, and then you're gonna have to dedicate about 10 to 15 hours of your time. That's a huge thing. He's a real estate investor. He has a couple of businesses. He has so much going on. I'm like, you're going to have to dedicate that time week after week to be able to do this and learn the process. And he can be a really good coach. I can tell that. But like your potential is different from the time that you put in to actually reach out to people, work with people, connect with people, go take them through the process, get feedback. That is a very different process. And as I'm walking him through it, and I'm helping him realize that you need to actually commit to this. So there are a few commitments in there. One commitment is the investment in business. The other commitment is understanding that this will take work. And I love that quote from Brendon Burchard is like, when you knock on the door of opportunity, don't be surprised that work answers. It takes work. It takes work. It takes about 10 to 15 hours of doing the right work, not all sorts of work. Now, there are a lot of coaches who will do a lot of stuff, but the things that they do don't translate towards clients. So 10 to 15 hours of work, which means that a big part of that is dedicated towards outreach, connecting with clients, and actually get them on calls, filling up your calendar and making offers. And then a small portion of that is dedicated towards putting yourself out there, your visibility. And the rest of the time is you're getting feedback for your process, you're connecting with other coaches, understanding how they're doing things differently. And if you don't have those things as a coach and you're kind of in your own little bubble and you're saying that I'm going to figure this out, you will probably 4 years down the road. Maybe that's probably the average, 3-4 years down the road. Versus you could accelerate your path much faster if you were part of an ecosystem that would give you feedback on your coaching process, your services, that the quality for which is going to be really high for people to exchange money for it, but also for you to understand what are the right actions, because you have a limited amount of time. Most coaches that I know, they're not all their time is in there. They have part of their time, they either have a job or they are doing this part-time, or even if they're doing this full-time, they don't have unlimited amount of time. They have 10, 15, 20 hours, something like that, to dedicate to this. And there are rare coaches who work full-time to this, and I do that. But if you're not dedicating that time figuring out what are the right action steps, and you can't look back in your week, in your month, and say, you know what, I actually made consistent effort and I analyzed the data and I got feedback and I moved forward. If you're not doing that and you're just posting a bunch of content or fixing your website or trying to build some random funnel or going into marketing classes or some other thing that you're learning, or the next conference or the next conference or the next class, hoping that somebody will say the right thing and this will stick to you. And if you're a coach listening to this, this is probably like, you need the right action steps consistently over the long period of time. So that's why we're talking about long-term commitment. But initially, if you're doing this if you're starting this out or you're in the beginning stages, you need to dedicate that time. And if you haven't invested in your business, you need to do that. And we're one of the communities that you can invest in. And if you haven't booked a call with us, definitely look for the link here and join our community. We have so much that we're offering coaches, and we all wish that we had a community like this in the beginning, because all of us struggled in the first couple of years because we did not have that feedback process. We were focused on so many weird things that had nothing to do with building the business and connecting with clients, and we struggled because we never had a feedback process.
Yeah. Shivazal, you make me think about, can I just share what came to me as he said that? Because I realized the way that I was making quote commitments in my life, I would start out with potential and decision. I thought that was what commitment was. I could do this thing, it could make this money, it could do this benefit in my life, and I need to make a choice. I'm gonna start dating it or whatever that choice is. But what I didn't factor in was the more important stuff is, what does that commitment look like? Commitment actually is not just this, it's also the time, long-term commitment that you're making to this thing, or whatever the right appropriate level of time, the work that you have to put in, the consistency you're going to need over that long period of time, the support that you need to plan for and get, and the actions that you're taking, make sure, as Faisal said, they're relevant. And like, without any of these ingredients, that's not a real commitment. That's just a potential and a decision. That's like what you feel in the moment you go to an event and you buy a thing. Then you got like the first part of commitment. You have the C, the capital C. You need the omitment. Or that's what you're doing. You're just doing omitment. If you don't do this part, it's just omitting. You're just omitting the things that are part of commitment. Like, you need to include them. Like, without this, is there really evidence of commitment? So I'd ask everybody watching, how much did you plan for these things when you made the choice to become a coach? And it's not too late. You can still do that. You can still think about how much time, how much work, how much consistency are you going to demonstrate? What action are you going to take, and what support? This is somewhere where we can really help you in our community. This is like the element that was always missing in a lot of the decisions I made. And I can see I wasn't really committed, because I didn't. If you're really committed, you'd be planning ahead for these things, and then once you made the decision, you'd be actively making sure these happen every day. You'd be tracking it somehow. You'd be working
And
towards and support.
I love this, and those who are watching it on video, but if you're not, the support, the action, consistency, and those are like time support, like we lay it out for our clients there, and we help them. And one, we keep them accountable. We're letting them know, hey, you need to do actually the work on our live calls. We're keeping them accountable on in our WhatsApp groups. They understand what the right actions to do are. I can't tell you how many coaches come in, like, well, I've been trying all this stuff for so long, for 2 years, 3 years. And then as soon as they come in, they get focused on the right actions. They're not increasing the number of hours, because you can spend 20 hours on completely irrelevant things every week to do, but it's not moving your business forward. But as soon as you get focused on the right actions, and they're usually uncomfortable, you need support structure for that. You feel discouraged when you do stuff like that, such as prospecting and reaching out to people and or launching something that you're doing like a webinar, and you're not getting the right data, how to make sense of it. If you don't have that, you will get overwhelmed. You go in your head. Right before this, I had a call with an investor who was doing capital raising, and I asked him he was about to give up on a deal that he was going to lose like close to 80K, 70, 80K. And I asked him, like, well, can you tell me a little bit about this deal? And my expertise is not real estate investing, but I understand how these things work. And I've talked to enough investors to understand what's happening. And I just asked him just a few questions, like, what did you do? He was talking to a lot of people around it. He had no system whatsoever. He's like, I'm like, how many times have you followed up with these investors? Like, you know what? I started reaching out to him, but I get overwhelmed because there's so many people. I'm like, where's your system? Doesn't have any kind of CRM system. He doesn't have any kind of outreach. I'm like, were you keeping up with your investor base before? He's like, no, I just started reaching out to them. Like, have you connected with some people that give you feedback on this deal and how to approach it differently? No, like key areas. And I asked him, like, is this a long-term thing for you or a short-term thing for you? And when he said long-term, like, so what would you need to do to look at it like that? How would you approach it if you looked at it? And he started laying it out himself. He's like, I need to find a mentor who will help me in this area. I need to go find the right system that's going to help me with this. I need to go get feedback from some peers that would give me feedback on a deal like this, and not get in my own head. The same process. And he was excited about it. He's like, okay, I didn't think about this for the whole year.
I love that. So some of you, to kind of wrap up our conversation today, some of you are at the beginning of your coaching journey and you haven't put the pedal to the metal, like in a car. You haven't put the gas all the way down and fully committed on what you're doing, and you're struggling to get movement and momentum. Some of you, though, have put a ton of all of these things in, but you're finding your commitment is waning because you don't have all of the rest of the things in place. And if you are not seeing the results of your efforts, that is going to impact your level of commitment over time. And sometimes you're doing the wrong things. And as Faisal said, that's what we see a lot, is people are doing the wrong things. And so if you've been in for a while, you've had some clients and you've had some successes, but you're like, what the heck is happening? Why am I not growing like I thought I was going to be? If you stay in that space, your commitment is decreasing. And that is where the Coaching Mastery community can come in and support you with helping you understand the right things to be doing, the right systems to be building, and to reinforce the structure and support that you're wanting to build. So that's another way to think about your commitment. You may feel emotionally committed right now, but it's gonna go down if you're not seeing the results at some point. So we would love to be able to support you in getting those results, making sure that the energy and action is put in the right place.
Sherry, I want to clarify like something that you said, but didn't actively explicitly say. When you have a commitment, you're also committed to maintaining that commitment. So you need to invest in things that sustain your commitment, right? The reinforcement that Sherry's talking about, it's like that commitment. It's not only just about having the commitment at the beginning, it's about feeding that commitment and growing that commitment like a plant. You can't.
You mean like a date night and going to marital counseling?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That like your commitment needs to be sustained. And how do you sustain it? You get the things that we talked about, like that reinforcement, that support and community. Like those are Like otherwise your commitment will decrease. I love that, Sherry. That's a really good point. Commitment itself
Before
needs to be
before we end this, one big caveat is a lot of coaches jump in, and I've done a video around this, but they jump into like these high-level marketing programs and business programs that will not help you. You need to be around other coaches who are actively doing this. You don't have to join our community, but find an ecosystem. We don't think there are communities like ours, but find an ecosystem that gives you feedback on your coaching process and your business process and your sales process and keeps you accountable and supporting you one-on-one and group. You will not find that. So that's why we have that ecosystem in place, so we can support you, hold your hand to take you to the other side, because it's very hard to do that process. And definitely, if you know a coach that's going through this challenge, share this video as well with them, and like this video, and share your thoughts with us. How committed are you, and how do you know you're doing the right actions? When did you realize you were committed if you did realize it? Or what are your insights that you're hearing from us? We'd love to hear from you. Until our next conversation, hope you all have an incredible week.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.